morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I first wanted to thank the team at iConnections for hosting this panel and our esteemed guests for taking the time out of the day to share their insights with us. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll try our best to cover as many of the hot themes we're seeing currently in the world of operational due diligence, also known as ODD. From Albourne's perspective, we've seen significant growth in the demand for operational due diligence as investment processes have evolved over the years. Investors want to get a better understanding of the complexities around governance, processes, controls, and systems underpinning the manager's businesses. With that in mind, I'd love to kick it off to our panelists here, and maybe they can share a little bit about their investment program and how ODD plays a part. Pohlay, could I start with you, please?
Yeah, sure. But just as a disclaimer, whatever that I'm expressing today is of my own opinion and not that of the NUS. So with the NUS, basically we have a IDD team and ODD team, and they run on different tracks. So during the investment, during just process, we'll feedback to each of the team if there's any concern, and then we'll follow up with it.
Great, thanks. Paul?
Yeah, sure. So, so I'm Paul. My team manages the endowment on behalf of Kansas State University, typical college endowment similar to Pohlay. And we have a relatively smaller team. So it's a team of 6 people managing a relatively more concentrated portfolio of 40 to 50 active manager relationships. So with that said, with the portfolio concentration, every single position is critical. So ODD, in this case, is critical for us in many ways. One, it helps us mitigate fraud risk. It also helps us providing an insight into how fund managers execute their investment strategy. Sometimes execution is just as important for investment success as the opportunity set or the strategy itself. And lastly, depending on how the manager responds to ODD requests and queries, that also provides us a really good sneak preview of what that partnership relationship is going to be like if we ever becomes a partner.
Absolutely. Jason?
My name is Jason. I'm the global head of ODD for AIA, also known as God. You laugh. And where the old money becomes new money as insurance companies' regulatory and accounting rules relax, we'll be opening up our balance sheets and investing more, and then our investment-linked program for the retail side is increasing. So we manage across 7 asset classes, have over 100 managers and growing, and with that, there's a need to put an ODD function in to counterbalance the IDD teams and, more importantly, support them. So I'll speak from the side of working on 10 to 12 deals at a time with a team. We co-source with several service providers, but the one comment I always tell the managers is, remember, everybody's quizzing, everybody's looking at you when you're doing the reviews. It's very much like broker voting, that when we do our deals, the teams get together, and if there's one piece that doesn't fit, we're not going to move forward. So having said that, ODD, I've done this for 15 years now. It's starting to move more back into management consulting with our partners, right? We all block and tackle the usual things, but there's much more openness to managers being proactive, saying, what are you seeing across the industry? What do we have to do to be better? We still have to play our bulldog role, but when you move into that next section, that's the more enjoyable part to help build the industry.
I guess with the evolution of ODD, can you share from your perspective kind of how has that evolved in your investment process? Are you outsourcing the process of diligence? Are you keeping it in-house? Are you using a hybrid approach? Would love to hear more about kind of your approach, Paul.
Sure. So we are doing it mostly in-house, although we do reserve the flexibility to hire external consultants to help us if necessary. So COVID was actually a game changer for us. We are a relatively boutique college endowment based out of middle of Kansas, which is in the middle of the United States. So it's not as easy for us to travel to New York or to any of the larger cities where most of our managers are based to conduct operational due diligence. So having the ability, since COVID has been an accelerant to forcing managers use technologies more. So having the ability to have Zoom meetings and be able to have access to various team members within a firm before we even pay a visit to office, to on-site, that enable a smaller LP that's more remote like us to be able to do a lot of the groundwork. At the very beginning, we can spend time to work on the document reviews, looking at the legal, talking to some of the members to get the basic question asked, so that when we actually do the on-site due diligence, we can be more focused. We can spend more time looking at the people, the team, the office environment, the culture, and just to help us really get a deeper sense of the manager and be a lot more efficient in our process. So I would say COVID has been a game changer in terms of our process in the last few years, as well as the digital data room.
Jason, how about yourself?
What was the question again?
How has your ODD process evolved?
Yeah, so the one big one is ODD is still part of the investment process. So when we implemented it, the investment teams were doing the ODD, we're just there to help as we have the special, we have our own skill set, but it's still very much involved. You know, we're going through governance and voting and all this, but we're still just professionals working together. From AIA's point of view, it's ODD. ESG is a big factor for us, being an insurance company and being one of the leaders in ESG. We do ESG assessments of our managers as well, and then the blocking and tackling of background checks and sanctions checks and all the you got to take those three components together to come up with a score, so to speak, to support that. But the key is the investment teams understanding that we're there to protect them from the backside. And you know, teaching them, because they start to understand what we're going to look for when dependent on the type of strategy, so that they don't bring managers to us that they're not going to pass the process. But the key is the collaboration. We're not just an outpost function and go and do it. My team is well versed in the investments side as well as the ODD side.
Absolutely. Pohlay?
So at the inception of the endowment program, we actually outsourced ODD. At that point in time, it was just, we conducted it just on the absolute return of the hedge funds portfolio. And then subsequently, we bring it back in-house and roll it out to the different asset classes. We are about 18 years into the program right now. The number of managers has increased, the number of funds has increased. So with that, with the resources constrained, we are now on a hybrid model.
Thanks. As realizations continue to be challenging in the private markets, we're seeing the rise of continuation vehicles and secondaries, less so in Asia compared to the US, but we have started to see some. I mean, what would you recommend in terms of LPs to look out for or for GPs to avoid when you look at these structures? Maybe, I don't know, Jason, you want to start?
Yeah, it's always just about the conflicts of interest. That's our fastest growing structures right now is secondaries and continuation funds. And trying to make sure, and we talked about this at a previous panel, understanding the conflicts, who gets pieces of the deal, and what the fund gets versus what the secondary investors get. And just understanding everything's on an even playing field.
Pohlay?
Well, I have seen asset allocators selling partial of their portfolio in a private side of it in a secondary market. I think you have to look at the valuation, at that point in time, because as you know, all these private assets they are valued every quarterly. So at a point in time, what is the valuation? When was the valuation marked? Because there's price opacity there, and so you got to look at how is the team going to manage. How are they going to realize the performance of these assets within the portfolio if you're buying it?
Paul, anything to add?
Sure. So I would say secondary vehicles as well as continuation fund vehicles are a way for LPs to generate some liquidity for a lot of the locked up assets that have been sitting there idle for many years. This is one way for you to be able to sell if you're an existing LP that's sitting on this mature asset. If you are an LP In some cases, if you're just building up a private equity portfolio, that allows you to buy up some of these seasoned assets, possibly at a discount. So it does serve some purpose for LPs specifically have that need. With that said, just like what the fellow panelists have mentioned, there's valuation risk. What you purchase may not be reflecting the accurate underlying assets valuation at this point. There's market risk, and in the effort to generate some liquidity, there's also liquidity risk. So if the market changes all of a sudden, if liquidity picture becomes worse, your shorter duration expectations may actually continue to be a longer duration. And then most importantly, I think counterparty risk is also important in secondary markets when you're looking at your potential buyers not being able to meet that obligation to pay at the end, the servicing agent that's facilitating the transaction, and even the risk of GPs not approving the transaction for the transfer of assets. Those are all things that we should consider.
Yeah, I would say that over the last couple of years, we've heard a lot about the democratization of private markets, the retailization. We're seeing more and more private market funds holding kind of open-ended funds holding illiquid assets or kind of hybrid sleeves, liquidity sleeves. When you look at these structures, how is it best to kind of think about them when you're looking at these kind of asset liability mismatch potentials there? Pohlay, maybe you can kick off with that.
Well, I find that you have to look at valuation because underneath it, for example, there's an increasing trend of private credit. So underlying that, all the debts, how is it being valued? Do they have an independent valuation agent to come up with the valuation? Because the vehicle itself is open-ended. And really, the infrastructure that is managing the whole process. As well as you need to understand, how do they monitor the credit risk of it? What was sort of, the debt covenant of all the underlying, yeah.
And Paul, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I think that evergreen structure is also something that's useful. In our example, we were trying to build a private credit exposure from grounds up. After our last strategic asset allocation study, we basically had a change of asset allocation for private credit from 0% to 6%. So in order to build that up, we initially committed to a lot of private credit funds, waited for a year only to have only about 20% of them called. And having an evergreen structure out there allows us to build up that capacity right away, very quickly. But with that said, like Pohlay said, leverage within the vehicles is a potential risk, as well as other things like how much cash is the manager holding that can potentially be dilutive? How is liquidity being matched across the vehicle? Will they have trouble in meeting liquidity demands from the LPs? Those are things that we consider.
Jason, anything to add there?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is right in our wheelhouse right now, which because of the tactical sleeve and getting our TAAs up for our offices when they need to get instant exposure to private equity and private credit, as well as the wealth platform where they really do. The only thing I'll bring is obviously the redemption subscription process. That's basically what we spend the most amount of our time. What if scenarios, playing the global financial crisis again, because that's the material difference between a drawdown structure and the open-ended.
Moving on to public markets, we're seeing the global investor community raise a lot of concerns around fees. It's almost become a normalization of private kind of pass-through expenses going into funds. How are you finding the fee discussions? And with this new higher for longer rate environment, how's that kind of affected those discussions? Paul, maybe you can start with us.
Yeah, sure. I would say from the perspective of a smaller LP like us, fees are the way it is. So it's really a supply-demand mechanism where if you are a top quartile manager that everybody wants to invest with you, you basically have your own say on how much fee you're going to charge, and people are still going to rush in. If you are a smaller LP that tries to be in a large fund, you have very little leverage in trying to negotiate down the fees. So for us, I think that doesn't really matter what the interest rate environment is like. For us, it doesn't really change. What we try to do is to be more tactical. We try to look at GPs at a size where we can be a relatively larger LP and more meaningful LP with them. We've also been working with some of the other LPs that are similar in size to us. And if we have one GP that both LPs are interested in partnering with, we will go negotiate the contract together. So those are some of the things that we do to increase our leverage.
And Jason, how about yourself?
Yeah. On global equity and global fixed income, our long only and our hedge managers, it's just fairness, trying to do fairness and whatnot, and understand we're not big on, oh, you charge this to the fund, you shouldn't charge it, it's disclosed, it's all that. It's having good discussions. On the private side, we're all still takers. And, trying to, early fee cut, size of ticket, and then strategic relationships. And then again, there's a lot more vagueness in how operating expenses are allocated in privates, right? That, systems sometimes, and that's okay. Or, trying to understand if fund administration and legal, they're going to charge it. But in terms of the numbers, you also don't want to have too many fee breaks because then they can't build staff, they can't build systems. So it's got, you have this with high water marks too. You can hold to the high water mark if you want, and then you can have no team to execute the strategy because they're so far underwater. So you have to renegotiate the high water mark and go from there. And then there you can extract kind of a management fee discount.
Pohlay?
Well, asset allocators are looking for alpha. So with that, most of them would try to negotiate for a performance-based or, a hurdle type of, fee structure rather than a fixed fee. And also, basically, can an active manager continuously, outperform a benchmark? So with that, I think, there's also drive towards a passive strategy into an investable sort of vehicle.
And there's so many topics within kind of the context of operational due diligence. I think maybe the next question, maybe I can just focus on what, for each one of you, what's kind of your core focus right now? Maybe Jason, you can start us off with kind of what you're really focused on within ODD.
Yeah, I think it always comes down to cybersecurity, valuations, governance, and reputational risk. So we spend a lot of time monitoring the media, and we've spent a lot of time with our managers, just blocking and tackling. Okay, you got pinged for ESG greenwashing. Tell us what happened. And but I've been impressed with the build out of the IR functions. Right, very responsive. They understand as fiduciaries that we have people we have to report to. And as being an asset owner, our clients, our offices, they're reading the news. And it's how quickly we can respond. We've done that a couple times with some pretty big events in the news where our managers have done a great job of being able to respond, understand that we need to get information, and play that role where 10 years ago it was kind of like, well, that's our problem, not yours. So we spent a lot of time on that with the background checks and that playing in the void. And we talked earlier about on-sites, those should be coming back online because there's a big component, but also as an asset owner, we want to be able to project what we're doing with our platform, right? You give us a little, we give you a little, and I find that goes a long way, as well as what we say is showing our work. Here's why we're asking you the question. This happens a lot with our regulatory demands, where I call it pulling the strings behind us. But I'm going to do everything to not have to have you guys fill out a 50,000-page questionnaire. But if I do, it's because there's a very good reason, and that goes a long way, as opposed to just demanding stuff. So,
well, I think you can run away from the basics of ODD. You look at the governance of it, how decisions are made. And you look at, internally their controls, their processes, their systems, their infrastructure, compliance side of it as well, how they manage their compliance. Cybersecurity is a hot topic. And, you have all your AI coming up now, and what are the restrictions within, a firm, on their staff using AI. And I think it has got a lot of implication on their marketing as well.
Yeah, so from our side, my team actually had a pretty fierce debate recently over how to develop a framework in kind of drawing a line in the sand. So when you think about it, we were in a situation where we are looking at this fund manager that has top quartile performance, proven over a long time. One of the co-founders, while we were doing our ODD, we realized that one of the co-founders had been sued by a former employee over sexual harassment, and the co-founder was let go many years ago. So to some of our team members, that's enough to make the manager completely uninvestable forever. To some others, they would say, well, it's been many, many years ago. Would you ever give that a chance? And what's the standard? What's the principle or logic or reasoning for making a manager uninvestable versus investable? So at the end, we kind of resort to, actually from my standpoint, I tasked the two people with the biggest arguments to work on a project to help us develop that framework on setting that guideline. But that's something that's on top of mind right now.
And so as kind of ODD evolves, where do you see the future of ODD? I mean, where do you expect the market to go, and kind of what are you doing to kind of stay ahead of that trend? Pohlay, maybe you can kick off with yourself.
Well, we have seen a lot of platforms coming out, to help ODD professionals to manage. It's a good tool, to collect information, to dice and slice of the information that you have. In the past, it's all in Word and Excel, but right now, you can have everything pulled, and, easily you can find out, with a sweep of managers who are using the, Big Four, for example, auditors. So I think these are very useful, and, we hope that, there'll be, better development, and, I see, AI being built into that as well, to help you to summarize whatever findings that you have in each area, which is good.
Awesome. Paul?
There has certainly been a lot of positive developments on the part of ODD. I think whether with some of the LPs working with the OPA to push for better terms out of fund managers, or to even some of the evolutions with the fees, like Pohlay had mentioned about managers now setting up hurdles related to relative performance over a benchmark. So I do feel that pretty positive that this positive trend of GPs and LPs working together to identify that optimal mix or balance will continue to be. And from our side, we have, as a smaller LP, we are working hard on thinking about how to leverage AI to help us scale our operations. We've been looking at different software packages, but also internally trying to see if we can use Microsoft Copilot to create some of these agents to help us, for example, review legal documents faster, create our own internal manager research DDQs in its template by collecting unstructured data and putting it in without us having to manually do it. So those are the things that I think hopefully in the future is going to help OLPs scale up and be more efficient.
Jason?
Stole my thunder. Hopefully AI will finally in 5 years automate the DDQ process so we all can move on and start focusing on what's important. So, by streamlining the 80 type of data fields and what have you. And then, like I said, our review, we're just reviewing the functional managers and our managers. And in times of crisis or in times of expertise, can they do the job? That's what the 3-hour meeting is. And I've had a recent meeting where the compliance officer had no idea they were talking about. And that's where we had to have a discussion with the manager. They put the wrong person in front of us because sometimes they're dealing with lesser ODD teams, sometimes ones that care about things. But it was a good lesson because we got the right compliance officer to come in and talk about it. And it was around open-ended type of private credit. And do you really know what you're talking about in compliance and what you're looking for? And we explained that that's really what it boils down to. If we can just move all this other stuff to automate it, to get it going, we're already, like Paul brought up, we're already playing with AI on those things. And then here's the 10 points we want to talk about. And those are the fruitful discussions. Because at the end of the day, I have to present to our committees, our stakeholders, our regulators, our auditors. As a big, highly regulated insurance company, I'm speaking on our manager's behalf.
I mean, we could talk for hours about each one of the specific topics that are raised today, be it AI, be it cybersecurity or valuation. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I just wanted to take this moment to thank our guests again for being such great hosts and panelists for today. Thank you. Thank you all.